There's a strange thing happening in phys ed. Every time a teacher does something that actually engages a kid, run a fitness test, bring in some technology, they gamify a unit, they run a lesson that is just all about fun. Somewhere an academic literally dies and they raise their hand and say, this is not PE. And I want to make a simple argument today that you cannot gatekeep something that has no agreed definition. I mean, that's just a fact. For over a decade, I've heard from PE teachers in all corners of the globe, different countries, different curriculums, different facilities, different philosophies. And one thing has become incredibly clear from those conversations that nobody has ever agreed what PE actually is. Not the teachers, not the schools, certainly not the academics, not the curriculum writers, they're mostly the academics. If you ask 10 people what PE is, you'll get 10 different answers. Someone's going to say it's about health, another person, it's about sport, fundamental motor skills. It's about social and emotional well-being, lifelong movement, physical literacy, movement literacy. I mean, you take a pick. Each camp has probably supporting journals, conferences, and true believers. And that's just the reality of it. Every time I would hear from a teacher sending me an email, it would be so different to my own viewpoint. But I had to recognize that they were doing a job in a real school. And who was I to say that that wasn't what they should be doing? We might try and show them new things, but this idea that that's not PE, and that's the contradiction. A field that cannot even define itself has been arguing about this for 50 years, and somehow academics, who are the biggest perpetuators of this, can confidently look at a working teacher, a real teacher, they're real teachers, and say that's not PE. How can they do this? On what authority? Drawn against what? The only thing every PE teacher in the world probably agrees with is the job and how it looks. It looks like you've got 25 kids, year 10s, it's a wet field, and you're trying to survive, the next 40 minutes. That's kind of the consensus. That's the flaw. And while academics, sit in their offices and argue about what PE should be, publishing, citing each other, lining up symposiums, that wet field keeps showing up, every day, whether the theory's settled or not. And, this is a call on multiple fronts. It's a call on schools to give PE teachers the support, the time, and the resourcing to do a job well. That's going to be hard because not everyone's coming from the same base resource set. In the developed world, that should just be a given. But when I hear from schools in the developing world, that's just so far from reality. It's also a call on better training. And I'm very thankful for the academics and the people who really do that and put themselves out there in front of real teachers. Do more of that, please. This isn't just about theory. What is it to prepare people for the reality of really teaching? Not just talking about it, not just writing about it, but mostly it's a call about one thing. It's a call on academia and a phrase that I keep seeing, and it's certainly not new, but it's, this is not PE. Drop it. That has to go. You can publish your paper, you can argue your point, you can put forward a better idea. More of that. Push the field forward. We need that. We need people doing research. We need rigor. We need critique. More of it. And I'm happy to share that as part of Connected PE. But the moment you tell a teacher in a real classroom, on a real sports field, with real kids, that what they're doing isn't PE, you've actually stopped contributing and you've started gatekeeping. And you're gatekeeping a definition that doesn't even exist. PE teachers keep doing the job. You're closer to the truth than the people writing about it. And I know the job is hard. It's not always perfect. And sometimes you're just trying to survive. But we hear you, and we just hope that this academic world and the people around it can drop that really damaging phrase because it doesn't do anything but alienate the people who need the help.